In a court of law, a piece of evidence, and often all the evidences together, do not necessitate the decision. The use of the term mathematical, however, is unfortunate, for the proof of geometrical theorems is no more valid than the non-mathematical syllogism used for centuries in logic textbooks. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. This, too, is a necessary reference. Now, Thomas Aquinas intended, and natural theology demands, that the argument for God's existence should be a formally valid demonstration. The conclusion must follow necessarily from the premises. In this, I maintain, the argument fails. The first reason it fails is too complicated to spell out here, as summarized in the Summa Theologica, first book, question 2. The cosmological argument depends on an extensive philosophical background borrowed from Aristotle. It includes a theory of motion which asserts that nothing can move itself. This thesis rests on the concepts of potentiality and actuality. Thomas defines motion as the reduction of potentiality to actuality. The cause of a motion must be actually what the thing moved is potentially. And since nothing can be both actual and potential in the same respect, it follows that nothing can move itself. Unfortunately, the concepts of potentiality and actuality remain undefined. Aristotle tried to explain them by an analogy. In the context, motion is used in the explanation, and then the concepts of potentiality and actuality are used to define motion. The argument, therefore, is circular. Behind this stands a mass of metaphysics and epistemology. Such intricacies cannot be discussed here, but it should be noted that if any essential syllogism in all the extensive argumentation is invalid, the whole system and the proof of God's existence collapses. A second reason for repudiating the cosmological argument can be better pinpointed. In his attempt to conclude with a first unmoved mover, Thomas argues that the series of things moved by other things in motion cannot regress to infinity. The reason Thomas gives for denying that moving causes can regress to infinity is that this view would rule out a first mover. But this reason that Thomas gives is essentially the conclusion he wishes to prove. Of course, an infinite series of moving causes is inconsistent with a first unmoved mover, but if the argument is designed to demonstrate the unmoved mover, its existence cannot be used ahead of time as one of the premises in the argument. A third reason, of a slightly different sort, concerns the identity of the unmoved mover. Suppose all that the syllogisms to this point were valid. Suppose the existence of the unmoved mover had been demonstrated. Yet when Thomas adds, "This first mover everyone understands to be God," we may demur. The argument taken at its full face value would prove the existence merely of some cause of physical motion. One might even say that it could prove the existence only of some physical cause of motion. To avoid this, Aristotle goes to some trouble to prove that the unmoved mover has no magnitude. But this is one of the most unsatisfactory parts of his argument. At any rate, it is quite clear that the unmoved mover of the proof has no qualities of transcendent personality. There is nothing supernatural about this cause. In fact, if the argument is valid, and if this unmoved mover explains the processes of nature, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is superfluous, and indeed impossible. This is a point on which a great contemporary theologian commands attention. Karl Barth, the founder of Neo-Orthodoxy, in his Church Dogmatics, Book 2, Chapters 1, pages 79 and following, gives some of his reasons for rejecting the Roman Catholic viewpoint. In contrast to the decision of the Vatican Council in April of 1870 that God, who is the beginning and end of all things, can certainly be known from the phenomena of created nature by the natural light of human reason, Barth declares that God can be known only through God.